I just stole Craig's mic and I think it's still shaped to his head. So hopefully it stays on. I think our heads are different. Uh, we have a lot else in common, but this one's feeling a little loose. I think it'll stay on though. Um, so, like Craig said, if you came here to see the children's program, you're about an hour too early, and you've got me for the next 20 minutes. But you can stick around for them at 10:30. I'm going to kind of continue the same Christmas series we've been going through. The last 2 weeks we've been talking about busyness and stress and chaos and all the hectic parts of Christmas that we have to get ready for. So I can only see a few of you, but how many of you are all ready for Christmas? You've got lights, trees, presents. They have to be wrapped or it doesn't count. Um, how many of you are stressed out by those questions on the other hand? I think I see more in that group. Um, yeah, I talked to my mom the other day, and they're actually a little bit ahead. We're kind of that family. A couple years ago, we went to go get our Christmas tree, and it was so late that the tree farm had closed. So my dad actually hopped the fence and got one. That might not be in the Christmas spirit, but that's kind of the time schedule we run on. And my parents texted me last weekend that they already have their lights up, which is way ahead of the schedule for them. And my neighborhood at home, I'm from Marion, Iowa. Our street is like this big circle, and there's only one entrance and one exit. It's kind of a tight-knit community. And our neighborhood agrees every year that everyone in the neighborhood is going to make all of their trees look like candy canes. So you do like the red and white stripes up each tree trunk. I think we have a picture of it somewhere. But they sent me a picture that they already had their lights up. The whole neighborhood does it. It's really cool. We've done it for a few years now, and they've kind of nicknamed our neighborhood Candy Cane Lane now. You can kind of tell. And then, it's kind of my favorite part of Christmas. The whole neighborhood does it, and we'll have people come in through our neighborhood just to drive through and see it. There was even one year that they did a news story on it. I don't know how this got into the busy Marion, Iowa news cycle, but it made the cut one year, and they actually had a story on Candy Cane Lane in our neighborhood. And that is by far one of my favorite Christmas traditions. When I come home, once the candy canes are up, that is like the signal Christmas season is starting. It's time to get ready. It brings the whole neighborhood together. It's cool that we get 30, 35 houses in this circle of our neighborhood. And every single house does it. Every single tree is a candy cane. No neighbor ever misses that tradition. And I think for all of you, maybe you don't have candy cane trees, but we all kind of have a tradition, something that is our favorite Christmas tradition. It's what we look forward to. It wouldn't be Christmas without this tradition. Maybe it is a certain light fixture you put up or a certain ornament or decoration on the tree. Maybe it's a special meal that you have every Christmas. Maybe it's a special trip to a certain relative you never see. But I think that we always look forward to those traditions. That's what gives us the heartwarming, joyful anticipation of Christmas. And it just wouldn't be Christmas without those things. And I think it's December 13th now, and we're kind of in that prime season of this is the big buildup. We look forward to Candy Cane Lane and those special trips to see family and the meals and the presents, and this is like the huge season of anticipation and of getting ready for those things and looking forward to those things that are coming up. And it's kind of been hard for me because it's a little warm out, it's raining, and I feel like I can't really get into the anticipation mode until it's cold or do anything. So unless it starts snowing, I don't think any of my family is going to get any presents because I'm not going to start until it gets cold. But I think that we are in that season of anticipation. Next week we'll be in the season of Christmas and the celebration and the presents and all of that and all the joy and excitement. But then I think we all experience kind of that post-Christmas feeling. It's just kind of this letdown, and you're like, all right, we did everything. And then, it's just kind of a big letdown from that season. We kind of have New Year's. We get a little excited about New Year's, but I think everyone kind of admits New Year's isn't that great. Some people like it. But then, we have New Year's. It's kind of fun, but then it's back to work, back to school, and all the joy and excitement of the December season is over. And I actually was looking up some stuff about this week, and they actually have like a post-Christmas depression. You can get diagnosed with that if you really love Christmas and that week after is horrible for you. There's a real thing. I don't think that's really what I experience. Hopefully most of you don't. I would say more of like a post-Christmas sadness is probably more appropriate for all of us. But I mean, We go straight from Christmas to eating as much as we want, and there's all these great foods, and then it's New Year's and we're all supposed to lose 15 pounds. Or we go from getting all these gifts to returning all those gifts and customer service and all the fun that comes with that. We go from seeing all these lights and decorations to now we got to take them down and clean up and put them in storage. And, our streets are all lit up, and then we come down and it's just cold and gloomy. And the snow on Christmas is a lot of fun, but then, like, right the day after, I'm like, it's just cold. It's not really that exciting anymore. And I think we have that post-Christmas blues a little bit. I had a friend once even, she told me, like, the day after Christmas was December 26th. We were on Christmas break for college, and she got an email from her professor on the 26th that morning being like, Christmas is over, you have to read this book, and your paper is due on January 7th when you get back. And I'm like, stuff like that, that's why we have the post-Christmas blues, because teachers and bosses like that don't even give us a chance. And I think most of us kind of experience this post-holiday sadness. And we've been doing this socks and underwear series, which I think just makes the kids laugh whenever we talk about it. They don't really know what it's about. But what it really means is in Christmas, there's all the things we want. We want the iPad or whatever Apple product is coming out this year. If you're Craig, you want a drone for who knows what he's going to do with the drone. There's all these things that we want for Christmas. But it's sometimes the not so exciting gifts like socks and underwear, that's what we need from Christmas. My family has a tradition where we get a toothbrush every year in our stocking. So it's like a bunch of candy, and then at the bottom, there's like a toothbrush being like, don't eat all this candy right now. It's just like a reminder. And I think like those aren't the fun parts of Christmas, getting the toothbrush or the socks and underwear, but it's what we need. And I think our traditions and the lights and the presents and the meals, all those things are what we want from Christmas. They're fun. It gives us that like heartwarming Christmas joy that we all look forward to so much. But what do we really need from Christmas this season? Do we need all these traditions and gifts and things that just lead to that kind of post-Christmas blues afterwards? And I think when we really think about it, what we need this Christmas is we need to experience Christmas, and we need to experience Jesus this year in a way that lasts after Christmas. We need something this Christmas season that's going to stay with us for right after Christmas, that's going to last through New Year's, that's going to take us into January. And we just heard that Advent reading. Today's the candle is a symbol of hope. And hope doesn't mean, happiness and joy and fun right now. Hope is about the future. Hope is about what happens next, and so is Christmas. I think when we look at this Christmas season, we can have our traditions and we can have all the fun, nice things that come with it, but we also need to experience Jesus this year. We also need hope this year. We need the things that are going to stay with us after Christmas, when we go back to work and we go back to class and when we have homework on December 26th, and for those moments of life. And we just heard the scripture reading about the shepherds. They were one of the first people on Christmas to go see Jesus. I think we might have some little shepherds up here at the 10:30 service. And the shepherds tell a really cool story about this because they're just like us. They're out in their fields, they're working. This angel comes and tells them, this Messiah you've been waiting for years, that your people have been waiting for hundreds of years, he was just born, and you can go meet him right now. So they immediately leave their jobs. They go, they see baby Jesus, and they celebrate just like we do. They go out, they're telling everyone, they're running around town, they're excited, they get to break the news. They celebrate Christmas season just like we do. And we see in verse 17 what they do right after of, telling everyone, breaking the news. These random shepherds that are just normal people like all of us get to go break the news to all the villagers about Jesus being born. But I think what's even more important for us this year is actually what they tell us in verse 20. In verse 20, it says, "The shepherds went back to their flocks, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen. It was just as the angel told them." And I think what's cool about that is, they saw Jesus, they celebrated Christmas, but then they went back to their flocks. And that's just like us. We're going to celebrate Christmas, and then we're going to go back to work. We're going to go back to school. We're going to go back to whatever the real world stuff we've been avoiding for Christmas, whatever we've been taking a break from. But that's not what happened to the shepherds on Christmas. They didn't have that post-Christmas letdown or sadness that we all have. they went back, still glorifying, still praising God just as much. They got changed by Christmas, and they were never the same. And so I was wondering, what makes that different for them? Why do they go back glorifying and praising and even more excited, and we go back kind of depressed that Christmas is over and it's a new year and now we have all these goals we have to accomplish, and we just kind of put Christmas right back in a box on the shelf. I think the difference is for the shepherds, this was just the beginning of their story. Yeah, they saw Jesus, that he was born, that he was in a manger, but they didn't celebrate and then go back to work and be like, oh, it was a nice Christmas, it was a nice birthday party. They went back knowing, like, this is just the beginning. Jesus was just born. What does this mean for the future? What is he going to do when he grows up? What is he going to do for us? They knew that he came to save them. He knew that he was going to be their king. And so they could go back to work still celebrating that, even after the initial Christmas. And I think God wants us to have a really similar Christmas experience to them this year. He wants us to be like those shepherds, to go back to our flocks, whether it's back to our family, our job, our classroom, wherever we're going back to after this Christmas season. And, having enjoyed those heartwarming parts of Christmas, but also having been changed by Christmas. We can all go back and be different and have that hope and joy that we see the shepherds still glorifying God and praising him even after this season was over. Because I think eventually all this Christmas stuff has to come to an end. We can still enjoy it. We should still celebrate and do all of that. But what are we also going to take away from this Christmas? How are we going to be filled with joy after? How are we going to have this hope to take home when we go back to our flocks? And I think we can learn a lesson from the shepherds that, they knew this was just the beginning, and Christmas is just the beginning for us too. It's a season of hope. It's a season, it's not about just this baby. We celebrate this baby. He doesn't do anything, again, for a while. He just grows up like the rest of us. This season is about celebrating what he's going to do for us in the future. And Christmas can be that same season for us. I think a lot of times we get really into church in the Christmas season and all of that stuff. We think about Jesus more. We go to church more over Christmas season. We have all of that. But we forget, like I said, that Jesus grows up, that there's more to the story than just being born. The same Jesus we have on Christmas is the same Jesus that walks on water, that's Easter, that's with us all year round. I think sometimes, Jesus comes out at Christmas. He doesn't just go into hiding until Easter. That's just some of us that, come out at Christmas and then we're back at Easter. But he is actually with us year round. He can be with us year round. He can be celebrated year round, even when we go back to work and school. So I have a little quick video that shows a man who's kind of just figuring this out for the first time. So hopefully you guys all kind of knew Jesus was just one guy. There's just one long story. If that was all news to you in that video, you're going to have to talk to Craig later, because explaining that is, that's above my pay grade, I think. So you're going to have to talk to him about that. But, that video is funny. We can laugh. We obviously know Jesus is one big timeline. But I think we don't always act like that. I think we kind of have like, oh, it's Christmas, it's Jesus, and then, New Year's and all of that sort of stuff. We don't see it as a continuation thing. And that's how we get that letdown. And that's what those shepherds didn't have. They knew that this was the beginning of that timeline. It was the beginning of something else, and they could be filled with hope from that. My church at home in Marion, we do like a Christmas Eve service with, I think here they do glow sticks, and it's kind of a candlelight service. Well, at home, they do a really bold move, and we have real candles and real fire. And everyone gets a candle in the line. Like, even children, like old enough children will be holding these candles. Even scarier, I've seen like middle school boys with them in church. And like everyone gets one. And so the ushers come down and light the ends, and you light it across, and everyone's got, a real flame, and we sing the carols, and it's really cool. And that's like my favorite Christmas Eve tradition. I love that service. I love that we do the real fire, even though it's kind of scary. But it's also really cool to have that moment and sing the carols, and you really get that like Christmas feeling in that moment. And I think there was one year, I don't know if it was last year, a couple of years ago, when the whole candle thing just went completely wrong. The ushers didn't light all the rows, so they started the carols, and some people had lit ones and some didn't. And I think someone must have burned their finger, because there was like kids crying, the hot wax, and I couldn't focus. And like for me, I was really mad because I was like, this is my favorite part of Christmas. We're supposed to have these candles and it's pretty and we sing carols and kids are crying and some people don't have candles. They're just holding up the candlestick without the flame. It looks dumb. And so I walked out and I was like, I'm kind of mad. Like, that's my favorite part of Christmas. And I didn't even get to enjoy it. And I was, all of my friends come home for Christmas. We're walking out together. And I was telling one of my friends, I was like, I'm kind of disappointed in that service. Like, that's what I really look forward to. And I thought it was kind of ruined. And she was like, I thought it went really well. And I was like, are you serious? Like, the kids were crying the whole time. Your candle wasn't even lit. Like, it was a disaster. And she's like, oh, I thought Pastor Mike's message was really awesome. And then I was kind of like, oh. It kind of hit me. I was like, I came here for the candlelight part, for the singing and the pretty candles and the heartwarming feeling. And, she kind of made me realize I didn't even know what the sermon was about. I was more concerned that all the candles were messed up. And I think that a lot of times in Christmas we get distracted that way. We love these traditions. We look forward to them so much. We give them all our attention. And we miss out on the Jesus part. And then when Christmas is over, we're all let down. We didn't come away with that hope and inspiration that we could have because we weren't even paying attention to the important stuff. And I'm not a big fan of cliches. I really don't like when everyone's like, well, keep the Christ in Christmas and Jesus is the reason for the season, and those kind of things. I think they kind of wear down on us. But if we don't focus and remember that, Jesus is really the reason for the season, we're going to miss that stuff. And I think that it's important to kind of add to that cliche that, Jesus is more than the season. Yeah, he's the reason for this season. We celebrate his birth, but he's more than just this season. It's about what happens after. It's about the hope and the inspiration that we get from this Christmas month, and it's about taking that forward. Do any of you guys have a friend who does birthday month instead of just a birthday? Like, you don't just celebrate on their day, you have to celebrate the weeks before. You have to be really nice to them, and then after they're still it's my birthday. That was 2 weeks ago. It doesn't carry on the whole month. You just get one day. Everyone gets one day. And I have one friend, and it's the whole month. I don't remember when her birthday is, which is probably the problem, but if her birthday was September 17th, on September 1st, we have to start celebrating her. And then we'll celebrate on the 17th, even bigger. And the weeks after that, we have to keep going until September's over. The whole month is her birthday. And I think with friends sometimes we're like, okay, it's not your birthday. But with Jesus, that's kind of how it works. That's kind of the idea. Yes, he gets that one day, but he also gets the weeks and months and whole year after that as well. And he actually deserves that celebration from us. I work at this church camp in the summer every year as a counselor, and we do games and sports and worship, and it's really fun. It's the highlight of every kid in counselor's summer, as far as I know. And, at the end, everyone gets really bummed out about going home. You're not going to get to be with your friends playing sports all day. School's going to start. We don't worship Jesus 3 times a day in a big auditorium and all that stuff. So our last small group time at the end of camp, we always talk about, how are we going to deal with going home? How are we going to deal with going back to the real world? And it's not church camp anymore, and it's not this fun time. And we talk about, some kids are sad they have to go home. Some are nervous that they have to go back to friends that didn't have this experience with them. And we were having that meeting once, and I remember one kid in my group who was I think he was an 8th grader or a freshman maybe, and he was like, I'm actually really excited to go home. And that kind of hurt my camp counselor ego a little bit because I was like, oh, he didn't even have a good week. But he's like, no, I'm actually really excited to go home because, yeah, I had a great week at camp. I loved it, but I can't wait to tell my parents about it. I can't wait to tell my friends. I can't wait to start going to church every Sunday. I never used to go. I've never been to youth group, and I want to go now. He's like, I'm going to sign up for our mission trip. And I realized that kid kind of understood more than we did. Camp is that fun week. It's to worship God and grow in your relationship, but it's not about just that 1 week in Grinnell, Iowa. It's about what happens when you go home. It's about what you're going to do with what you've learned when you get back from camp. And Christmas is intended to be the same thing. It's not intended to be, one December winter season of celebrating Jesus and coming to church all the time and growing in our relationship and then going home and being all bummed out and going back to work and school. It's about being inspired. It's about remembering what Jesus did and how much he loves us. And, growing more in our relationship with him because of that. It's about being inspired, and just like those shepherds, it's about taking it back to our flocks and our jobs and our classrooms and doing something with it. So I hope this season that we can all kind of focus more on Jesus in our specific traditions and not so much worship all the traditions and celebrations, but really worship him this year, so that we can come away inspired and filled with hope and joy that we can take with us. So if you guys would all bow your heads and join me in prayer.